Welcome to the Make Life Your Bitch podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Alicia. Greatness is a decision and your birthright. You deserve to love the woman looking back at you in the mirror. This show is for the purpose-driven female entrepreneur who is committed to only counting the time she gets back up. The woman who is ready to ignite the flame within, find her voice, and use the power of her story to transform the lives of those around her. This is your weekly fuel to inspire you to action, where I'll be sharing inspirational stories, real talks with thought leaders and successful entrepreneurs from around the world, and provide you with actionable success strategies for creating a business you love. I'm a content marketing coach, and I'm committed to helping you as an online creator and entrepreneur wherever you are to turn your dreams into a reality, to help you transform your messaging so you can create a genuine connection with your audience and grow your income online. You are far more powerful and stronger than you will ever imagine. We are the warriors. You were born for this. Let's make life your bitch. Hey ladies, hello. Welcome to day 3 of the Aligned AF Content That Converts Masterclass. Super excited for those of you who are here, those of you who are new and joining us. We've had some women come in the last 24 hours, which is really exciting. And I just want to say that, just that strategy alone you can look at so what ended up happening was I ended up going into someone else's Facebook group and giving value there. It's part of one of the strategies that I teach my clients, in the Wealthy Rebel program. And, even just from that one thing that I did alone, I think 10 more women signed up for the masterclass, right? And so I'm excited to talk to you about that kind of strategy today, okay? So moving forward. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Brittany Alicia. I'm a content marketing coach. I help women with both mindset and strategy when it comes to growing their businesses using their social media. And I really like to focus on the content that you create and the strategy behind it. And then of course the mindset side of things. I'm a huge believer in manifestation. I enjoy the science of manifestation. And so I talk a lot about that kind of stuff as well. I have 2 signature programs now. One is the Wealthy Rebel that I'm just starting here. It's similar to my Independent Boss Babe Academy that I've now retired. And this one is more focused on the launch side of things. So I have the Wealthy Rebel Academy. And then I have Abundance Codes is my other signature system or signature program. And that one is the manifestation, money block removal, energetics side of things. So I get to do both my passions. So I would love to know, as you're popping on, hands up, hands on your keyboards. Let me know in the chat. What is your business? What kind of business do you have? If you are catching the replay, hashtag replay for me, so that way I know that I can come back and I can interact with you. If you are catching the replay and you are responding, I know it's good to follow along and say yes. Can you say yes to what you're saying yes to? That way I can actually go back and have a real conversation with you about what resonated with you. I would love, I'm not going to be picky. I love that when you ladies comment, but so that I can better interact with you, that would be great. So today we are going to talk all about launching. So the last 2 days we've been talking about the content. We've been talking about creating aligned content. We've talked about the content that converts and how to bring that together. And today we're going to talk about why your launches aren't working, right? Why the content that you're putting out there doesn't seem to be resonating with people, why people aren't purchasing, all that kind of stuff, okay? So, in order for us to be able to see that, I'm just going to quickly recap, the 8 steps to the client journey, right? The first one being getting visible. The second one being people getting to know you. They want to come into your world. They like you. Third one being, connection. They're starting to connect with their content. Do they want to stay around? Do they like you? Fourth is authority, where they're going to go out and now they're going to start looking at, do you have a Facebook group? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a website? This one is probably the one that I see people try and spend too much time and energy on, that is probably the least important when it comes to first growing your business. When it comes to scaling, and then people start really looking for you. But when it comes to first, like if you're first in your like first 10 to 20K months, and I know there's lots of women who don't even have websites still, like you look at someone like Melanie Ann Lair, she has sales pages, right? But she doesn't have like a full website. And so like those kinds of things too, you don't necessarily need, as long as you have somewhere for like someone to purchase from you, right? And like they're looking for you in other places. So that's number 4. Number 5 is where we start to tip that scale towards trusting you, right? And so this is giving away free value, whether it be through your content, through your masterclasses, through your resources, anything like that. So you have your free content. And then the next thing is step 6 is consistency. So continuing to show up, like even when it feels like it's not working, but continuing to show up, because what that does is those people who still like maybe just came into your world and they aren't quite ready, by you showing up consistently, they're like, you know, they actually get to see you. And so when I like to think about consistency, it's not because it's like my stuff's not working. It's like we're being consistent because there's new people coming in all the time, right? But obviously don't burn yourself out. And then, you know, 7 is getting your first sale. And then 8 is client retention. So those are the 8 steps to the client journey that I like to teach my clients, and making sure that when you do any sort of launch, all of it is cohesive, right? Everything goes along together to make sure that people are ready to purchase from you. I also like to look at that client journey in regards to the objections that I mentioned on Tuesday. The 3 types of objections, right? The internal, external, or vehicle, internal, external. So the vehicle being, will this work for me? Like people are looking at it, they're like, will this work? Will this work in general? And it's like, okay, so maybe you're sharing like client results, whatever it is, and they're ready to go on to that next step. That vehicle is like, does her program actually work? Step 2 being internal, will it work for me? And this is why the trust piece is so important, because so many people, that's where their objections are today. They're not so much in the time, the money, that kind of thing. They need to know, like, is this going to work? Because they've, like, if you're in my world, you've probably tried a lot of different programs, worked with a lot of different coaches, and it's been very overwhelming. And so because of that, you know, you have that question of like, is this actually going to work for me? Because I've spent and invested a lot of money and I'm a little afraid to invest more, right? And so if you're like that kind of person, it's like making sure that you're handling those internal objections so that people actually see like, hey, like she can help me, because with this masterclass, I went and tried this one thing and it worked. Or, you know, she gave these like 8 steps of the client journey and it completely resonates with me. It makes so much sense. Like obviously she knows what she's talking about, right? And so all of a sudden you like start to see that they trust you based on like internally them believing that it's possible for them. And then the third one being, like I said, the external of like, do I have the money? Do I have the time? Do I have the support? That kind of thing. When I used to do sales calls, the main thing I used to ask clients is, you know, tell me what the real reason is that you might not invest today. Like, let's not jump to, like, let's not go with your like go-to excuse you use all the time, but like, what is the actual reason? So let's deal with that, because a lot of people have a go-to excuse when they like start to get scared, and they either say, I like it's too expensive. They might say, oh, my partner, like I have to talk to my partner about it, when in reality their partner would be like, why are you asking me this? Right? So being able to identify and like really help them first is going to help someone become confident to make their own decisions in that last objection piece. Okay. So the reason I mention all of these is because when you are creating your launch strategy, what you want to be able to do is create a launch strategy that is all all creates like the same steps. So that way, when you do go out and you do create like tons of content, you don't feel like nobody is watching, or you feel overwhelmed and you feel frustrated because you haven't actually, you know, got people over the line. And so what we want to be able to do is we want to actually be able to create content that is directly related to the next thing that you're offering. And so I put my content into buckets, okay? So I have 3 buckets that I do. And the first one is so I always build things backwards. So the first thing I do is identify what is the program that I am launching. Okay. So for example, right now I'm launching Wealthy Rebel Academy. The program is about, helping women do done with you launches, for them to be able to turn a stranger into a sale, and for them to have the best launch that they've ever had. Okay. So if I know that is my end goal, then I identify what do they need to know in order to get them across the line to want to purchase Wealthy Rebel, right? What do they need to know and be problem aware of? What does my audience need to be problem aware of as to why I'm different, handling those objections, right? The first one being that, why is my program different in general than every other program out there? Why is it going to work for them or you? And last one, the time and the money kind of thing. And so I make sure when I do any offer stack, I include the idea of all of those, right? So will it work, right? Will the Wealthy Rebel work, right? So the first thing I do is I make sure I have the best offer stack out there, right? The second thing is, will it work being, I do a masterclass, right? I give value in my content. When it comes to the internal, is giving value, so there's something that you can actually go do. Also I create a free download, right? So I have the Aligned AF prompts, right? And the Repurposing Content program or download. I'm also going to have a launch checklist, which I'll explain in a second here. And so with that, it's I have these content buckets, okay? While I'm handling objections all the way through. So the first one, like I said, is I identify what is the program that I'm selling. The second thing I do is identify masterclass wise. What is the masterclass I'm going to do that directly relates to that program, that helps women become problem aware? So for me, the lights that I'm shedding in this masterclass alone is the importance of a signature system, how a signature system will change your life by being very, very clear on it, and how it's going to change your entire business. And so I talked about the signature system on day 1 and day 2. And then the second thing is shining light on why your launch isn't working, right? And the importance of having everything in place, and the importance of having that accountability and someone to walk with you, right? So those are the 2 things that I'm shedding light on in the masterclass. They're directly related, right? And then I had value add content leading up to the masterclass. And so knowing what my masterclass was going to be about, it was going to be about creating aligned content, repurposing content, the content side of things, right? All of the content that I created prior to the masterclass was focused on content. It was focused on the client journey. It was focused on, helping people start to talk about repurposing content, all that kind of stuff. Now that I'm at this point that I've talked about the content, and now I've turned the light on of how it can affect your launch, right? Now I'm going to talk about launch strategies and help people with the launch side of things, right? Throughout my content. So with that being said, we want to make sure that we actually have a strategy behind our content. And I know sometimes it can feel very overwhelming when all of a sudden I start talking to people about the strategy behind content, because they're like, what? You just told me that I can just take my signature system and put out all these things and I give value. And now you're saying there's more of a strategy to it. Yes, there is. There's more of a strategy to it, because we want to walk our audience from stranger to sale, right? We want to be able to take someone who is a stranger and them to walk this journey with us. And sometimes it can move very quickly. People sometimes get overwhelmed and they're thinking to themselves well, how long is this going to take? I just want someone to buy my stuff, right? We get to sell things all along the way because you're constantly building value. And the first time you do this, after the first time you do this, you now have started to create an audience of people who want to purchase from you, right? Like I said, it's that consistency that maybe that first time they're just not ready. And then you keep, coming back and giving value and showing them that you can actually help them, right? So for me, I currently have 5 launches, 5 big launches planned this year. I have 3 for Wealthy Rebel. Obviously, I'm in one right now. I have 2 for abundance codes. So I'm going to go back and forth, Wealthy Rebel, abundance codes, Wealthy Rebel, abundance codes, Wealthy Rebel. And then I'm going to do some smaller programs at the end of the year that I haven't identified what I want to do yet. There'll probably be something around Black Friday kind of stuff. And then there will be end of year not resolutions, but like, goal setting and that kind of thing. And so, and like, again, that's the mindset side of things. So I'll do one based on sales and one based on mindset and manifestation. So with that being said, like knowing that this is what I have coming now, I do like the launches that I do, I know that I am constantly priming people. So you're going to watch over the next 3 weeks as we begin Wealthy Rebel, you'll start to watch my content change to be talking about the importance of mindset and why your business and you're struggling with bringing clients in. So you'll watch my content shift and change throughout like, as I transition into a new launch. And so that's why it's important for you when you're creating content when it comes to your launch and having a good launch strategy is that like the content is like queen. At the end of the day, like your content is your storefront, right? And so it's super important that we make sure that when someone comes to your profile, everything is in cohesion with what you offer. One of the bonuses that I have now included is someone who it's a previous client of mine who she's like a machine when it comes to Canva. She's like she knows all the ins and outs of Canva. She's absolutely amazing. And so it's a former client of mine. And I was on her Instagram the other day and I noticed that she started to create Canva tip reels. And it just like, even with her, she was a former client of mine. We worked together for a year. And it like sparked this thing in me that I was like, oh, it would be really good to have her as a guest expert to create graphics in the Wealthy Rebel to help the women, like the women in there, learn how to create their own graphics. And then if she wants to upsell and do she'll help like do done for you. If you want it just done for yourself, then you can invest in whatever she's offering, right? And so what sparked me to be like, oh, I should connect with her was because she started talking about these Canva tips, because for a while now she's been talking about like she's into branding, she's into she has another business of hers. And so with that, like that being her content, it's like I've been watching her content, and none of it was really for me until all of a sudden she did the Canva thing. And all of a sudden I'm like, that's what I need. And it's like, it can happen so quickly just by a shift in your content as to the support that you're giving someone, right? Like she gave 2 Canva tip things, 2 reels on Instagram, and it led to me inviting her into be part of a program and teach a VIP thing on that for the Wealthy Rebel. So it can like your content, just a simple shift and a simple tweak or adjustment can change like everything in your business, right? So it's super important that you have a clear journey, not just with a client journey, but a client journey within your launch is really important. So when it comes to showing up consistently, right? When I talk about showing up consistently, it becomes easier when you have a clear content strategy. But also when I go through like an actual planned launch, I know what I'm selling. I find it's a lot easier to create content, to create valuable content, versus if I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants and I'm like, well, I have a mastermind and maybe I'll talk about that. I find it more difficult to create valuable content. And I think that's why a launch is so important. Even if you are selling at the end your private coaching or your mastermind, it's going to help you like target a specific kind of person, a specific kind of message in order to like get people over the line. And it's, again, it all goes back to your signature system. So for me, my signature system when it comes to Wealthy Rebel, I have it split out across 12 weeks, and I just look at those 12 weeks and I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach stuff from that module, and I'm going to bring it together in order for it to be valuable, right? So for me, that is personally how I do my, like, I first identify like what masterclass I'm going to do. I also, like I said, I had the free download because some people just don't want to sit in front of a screen, right? It's also one of those things where I've gone and I've now transferred this over to the podcast because I have a podcast. It helps promote my podcast because people can be like, oh, I didn't know how she had a podcast. And now they might be interested in other episodes and learning more from me. Again, it's a quick way to build trust because I have additional resources of value on there. I'm not saying go out and start a podcast if you haven't started one yet. Like, let's do one thing at a time. It's easy to get distracted. So really making sure that like everything, like I said, is in cohesion. Now that it's going to be, I'm going into the launch side of things as to making people problem aware in regards to the launch as to why your launch isn't working for you, that kind of thing. Now I'm going to have a free resource coming out that's a launch checklist. Okay. And so the reason I do that and I have the launch checklist is because launches can be very overwhelming, right? So a launch is like, it's a lot, right? All of a sudden we sit down, and especially if like you don't have a solid launch strategy from previously, it can be very overwhelming because all of a sudden you sit down and you identify like, well, this is my list of all the things I have to do. I have, like Brittany just said, I have to do a masterclass, a free resource. I have to create a bunch of content. I have to do graphics. I have to actually promote this damn thing. I have to do emails. And all of a sudden it like starts to like be this like, you block out, I have to create my offer, and it gets like overwhelming. Brittany just said I have to have a signature system. Like, how long is that going to take? Right. And so because of that, that's why for me, I purposely created the Wealthy Rebel, is because I know how overwhelming launches can be, and I want to launch it with you because I've seen lots of women even try a launch and they can't go through the finish line, right? Like they get so burnt out by the time it's like actually time to launch the damn thing. You're so burnt out that you just like don't have the capacity to hold it through to the finish line, right? And that's why I think it's super important to have someone with you as you go through your launch, because they're going to hold you accountable, but they're also going to help you navigate through the shit that you don't need to do and help you like actually not get burnt out and have fun with it, right? Like have a lot of fun with it along the way. And so for me, what I teach in Wealthy Rebel is, over here we're learning stuff, but we actually have tasks like every week that it's like, okay, well this week, this weekend, all you have to do is like do a map of what your 3-day launch will be. My extent of my launch, or my masterclass is like that page and that page. Like that is how much I planned for this masterclass. Why? I didn't have to like overly plan a whole bunch because I'm teaching shit from my signature system from the program that's coming up. I already know, right? So there's not a whole bunch of like thought that has to go into it. It's just like I have a few notes of like what I need to make sure I cover with you, right? And so you'll see me looking down to make sure I don't miss anything. But other than that, it becomes easier to create a masterclass, a webinar, whatever it is, because you actually are relating it to your program. So it becomes easy, right? So it's like we do that. It's like then on the Tuesday or Monday or whatever, you like, the checklist is, we'll go create your graphic, like one graphic for your masterclass. It shouldn't take that long, especially having, Victoria come in and help you guys with that. You can maybe even do it alongside with her, right? So, it's making sure that you have support through that. The other thing is like, when it comes to eliminating overwhelm with the launch strategy, is having everything in place before, like at least a week before, right? We don't need to get like into the nitty gritty perfect side of things. But you can actually have like, your structure created. So we talk about your value ladder as well, right? So your value ladder is what I like to call, like I call your value ladder. It's your product suite, right? And so your product suite again is like the idea of a product suite will help you identify like those steps, that you take people through, from like free resource to your private coaching, your premium ticket, right? And so for me, one thing I realized recently that was going on in my business was I was moving people into the Make Life Your Bitch Mastermind, but the Make Life Your Bitch Mastermind is more like it's mindset and strategy come together, but it's more for that woman who has like kind of like solidified her launch and that kind of thing, or her signature system, which is why I include a signature system call in it. But she's kind of gone through that, and now she's wanting to learn more. So she's ready to like kind of go through that scale phase of things, or learn more about kind of like the back end SEO or hashtags or whatever, like the stuff that you don't necessarily need right now. We talk about websites and website building, sales pages, like all that kind of stuff. But it's not necessary for you to actually go through like that. It's not necessarily necessary like stuff for you to like achieve through Wealthy Rebel, right? And so anyone who does the Make Life Your Bitch Mastermind, they get Wealthy Rebel. And so with that, we like, when I was looking at my value ladder, what mine was I had like just free resource, like free content, valuable content that I was doing. I had like free downloads, that kind of thing. Then I had the next step up was visibility to cash. And that was $33. I had a private one-to-one, which was my signature system, or helping you define your signature system or your content, a brain dump of your content. And then it was Make Life Your Bitch Mastermind. And so I looked at it and I was like, you know what, there's a gap here of trust. And so that's why I added in and I created the Wealthy Rebel program, was to make sure that like when someone came into my mastermind or my private coaching, they had something like a solid foundation of a program that they could go to in order to make sure that their launch went off like without a hitch kind of thing. And so for me, that's why I create, you know, the product suites the way I do, instead of just throwing a bunch of shit into this like bundle and, you know, kind of like talking about all these different things, and it's super confusing for people and they're like, what does she do? I don't get it, right? We want to be able to go to your profile like I talked about on day one and be able to audit it and know exactly what it is that you do. So the other problem I see with people when they struggle with a launch is you try to rush it. Right? You try and rush through it because you think that if you rush through, you'll make money faster. But the reality is that you can be making money throughout like the value side of the content, like throughout, you know, so for example, I have 12 weeks for Wealthy Rebel. The first few weeks are just like really creating your signature system, your product suite, that kind of thing. But you're adding value on those weeks, you're getting visible. And so if you already have programs and all that kind of stuff that you're creating, or you've already created, like people can still find that stuff, right? And so you're still building value. You're still building, you know, have the possibility of obviously people investing in you. But like once you go through the masterclass, I do like, you know, an additional 3 weeks or so of sales, but like, so you can start making money at that point or even before, because you can always do an upsell with your masterclass, right? So there's always ways for you to make money in the middle. So I don't want you to ever think that, well, when I'm going through a launch, well, that means like it's long, it's drawn out, I'm not going to make any money for a really long time. Like that's not the point of a launch. And remembering like that first time you do the like this launch structure that I teach, that you are actually building a really, really solid foundation. So next time you aren't having to start over and build that trust again or build the audience. They're already there and you're just now bringing more and more people in. So your launch doesn't have to take as long, right? Like my launch now, it's shorter and shorter. And especially because I also don't need as much time to create things, right? So obviously, as I create my stuff as well, that's what I'm adding as resources and bonuses into the Wealthy Rebel, because I already have it. So for example, like plug and play emails, email templates. Well, I'm creating those email templates for myself because when I do abundance codes, when I do the next Wealthy Rebel, all that kind of stuff, I want to be able to just like plug and play in them versus having to like start over and like do a whole bunch of emails again and like go through that email process. So because of that, I'm already pre-creating that. So I'm going to why not share that in the launch program if that's what I do in my launch, right? So don't rush it. And the other thing I see as a problem is investing in seven-figure coaches who are teaching seven-figure strategies, right? There's a lot of coaches out there who are very, very successful, and they're hitting multiple millions, and all that kind of stuff, but they're teaching you sales. And I honestly think it's not their fault. I think that sometimes they just are selling to women who are just new versus they should be selling to the women who already have an audience and scale. Because I invested in a coach who was all about sales and all having multiple daily offers and all that. She told me that I didn't have to do sales calls anymore, that I didn't need to do free resources anymore, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, this sounds cool. And so with that, it ended up making my business go because I wasn't sharing that value anymore. And so remembering what your niche is, right? My niche is content. I need to be creating content and having women drawn to my content. I need to make sure that I'm teaching other women the importance of content, because that's that's the trust builder. For her, what she does is she shares a lot of her financial wins. She shares a lot of client testimonials, right? And so that is actually because it's those client testimonials come from the sales side of things. She's making money. She's teaching people how to make money. Obviously I am, but my strategy is based on helping you have a really clear strategy and content behind it, right? So I need to make sure that I'm helping you with the strategy side of things, and I'm embodying the strategy myself, right? That's the biggest thing, is being an embodiment. And so I need to make sure that I'm embodying the strategy that I teach. For herself, she's embodying the cash and the daily offers and all that kind of thing. But if you aren't connected and you don't have the solid foundation, that's not going to work for you, because you're going to be screaming into an abandoned building hoping someone buys. It's I like to say, it's you're in New York and you're in this abandoned building and there's people passing by down the street, and you're saying hello and no one's listening, right? But if all of a sudden you were hey Brittany, someone might turn their head. I mean, I don't know if they do it in New York, but it's possible that you would turn your head. Even if they said Brittany Alicia, then I probably would be someone knows me. Who is this person, right? And so that's how it is with your niche, is you want to be able to call that person out for them to be whoa, that's me. She's speaking to me, right? And so that's why I talk to the content side of things. That's why I feel it's so important. And it's being that embodiment. So looking at, again, everything comes back to that signature system. And the signature system, like I said, it can be overwhelming to try and figure it out on your own, right? And if you can sit down with me for, 90 minutes, it's going to say versus you trying to figure it out on your own, it's going to allow you to change everything in your business and the way that you show up, because everything's going to be in alignment, right? So when I think of the seven-figure coaches, I just want to encourage you that when you invest in a coach, that you're investing in someone where you're okay with where you're at, right? You have these big dreams and it's maybe that person's on your vision board, but being able to say to yourself but I'm not there yet. Do I have a solid foundation? Are my launches actually working up until this point? Do I have an audience that if I put out daily offers that they're even going to see it, right? And if the answer is no, you're probably not there yet, and put them on your vision board, put them on your desire of one day I want to work with this person, because we want to make sure that you aren't just spending more and more money on coaches and ending up, like I said, with all these extra pieces that no one is resonating with. Or you're struggling to bring them across, right? So what else did I miss? So with that being said, when I talk about the launch itself, right? Making sure your content is aligned. I trust that you can now see why that is so important. So if there's anything I was to go challenge you to do, is to sit down, identify your signature system or your program, whatever it is you're selling next, and start to look at and cross like compare it to like your current, like the way you're showing up, and is everything cohesive? Does it align? If it's not, then you need to start putting those pieces in place that I've talked about over the last few days to make sure that you're doing that. Before like I go into talking about Wealthy Rebel, I do want to remind you that we are doing a Zoom call tomorrow, a Q&A Zoom call, and I'm also going to show you how to repurpose your content. So bring one idea of content that you want to repurpose, and I'm going to show you how you can do it quickly, so that way you're not overwhelmed with trying to create like a whole bunch of pieces of content, right? Like I teach 7 to 10 different ways that you can repurpose one. So making sure that like you bring one, and I'll show you how to do it quickly, so that way you don't feel that sense of overwhelm and you don't spend a week on repurposing one piece of content, right? It's like being able to take that content and make it different. And sometimes you might not even want to like go deep into the repurpose of it, but you have it there, and now you can always go use it later, right? Saving it in a folder, whatever. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow live on Zoom. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Wealthy Rebel. If you feel complete, then thank you so much for being part of the masterclass, and I will see you tomorrow on Zoom. If you want to learn about Wealthy Rebel, I'm going to share that with you. Even if you just want to stick around to see how I create my offer stack based on what I've talked about today, and to help you start to get ideas for your own program and your own offer stack. I think it's going to be really valuable for you, because like I said, I touch on those 3 objections in every offer stack. Like I call it your sexy offer. Every offer stack that I create, I make sure it touches on every and hits all the objections that goes through people's minds, right? So I'm going to see if I can move this over here, because I want to make sure I don't forget anything, because I've been adding stuff over the last few days. I would keep adding bonuses. Okay. So the Wealthy Rebel, like I said, it's a 12-week program. There's 12 live modules. It's a done with you launch. Okay. So what it is you and I are going to sit down, work together to do your launch together, so that you actually go through the finish line. Okay. There's all the calls are recorded. So because they're recorded, I have a learning portal. It's a really beautiful learning portal. You will always have access that you can go back, watch the recordings for that. Okay. I have a group Voxer chat. So that way you have like daily support and feedback from myself, from the other women in the group who are there to cheer you on. And you have support, because there's nothing worse than like being like, I'm a night owl, nothing worse than like working on something in the middle of the night and being stuck and having to wait till next week's call, right? I want to make sure that you are constantly moving forward through your launch, through your business. I have a course book, so for you to plug and play with, to fill in, for you to refer back to make sure that you are following along and going through everything. Like I said, or I talked about earlier, I have plug and play email templates, so that way you don't feel overwhelmed with having to create a whole bunch of emails in order to launch your stuff, because one of the things that we're going to be doing throughout the launch is actually getting you start growing your email list as well at the same time, right? So if you're someone who maybe just has a small email list, maybe you have a big one, maybe you don't have one at all, we're going to go through that. And so in order for you to not have that overwhelm, I'm going to have the plug and play email templates for you. Okay. Like I said, daily support and feedback. And then I'm also going to give you a day-by-day launch schedule, so that you don't have to have to-do lists anymore. Because there's nothing worse than having a to-do list and not really knowing where to start, what to have, when you should have it complete, all that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that you're moving forward without overwhelm. And I like to, on the very first call, give you an overview of what everything looks like, what you're going to be creating, so that way you're not confused as to why you need to create this, okay? Bonus wise, I'm going to be doing, having someone come in. Katie Carlson is going to come in, and she's going to do a private one-to-one human design business reading with you. And so what she's going to do is she's going to go through your human design chart, and she's going to identify what the best way for you to launch your program is, based on whether it should be talking out loud, whether written content is really good for you, whatever it is. And we're going to do that. We're going to make sure we identify what you, what is going to maybe hold you back throughout, so that we make sure we put that in place. Like I said yesterday, one big thing for me is when someone pokes at me, like questions if I'm a failure, or like questions me on something that I'm creating, I can like, it can take the wind out of my sails. So I need to constantly be giving myself like little wins and little like successes, right? I need to feel successful all like every step of the way. So because of that, I want to make sure that you have someone, like I'm bringing someone in to help you with that mindset side of things. I'm paying for it. And it's private, it's one-to-one. She's going to do it with each one of you. And it's also, I'm going to sit in with it. That way I know how to best support you throughout your launch, because I'm a firm believer in, I don't believe in cookie cutter. I believe in structure, but we get to do business your way. Okay. The second thing you're going to get is a VIP signature system, and like a VIP day, a signature system, and a content dump with me. So we're going to sit down 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it takes for us to sit down and identify what your signature system is. And you and I are going to do a content dump right from the beginning. That way, like, you aren't stressing out about that throughout the next 12 weeks, right? And you're not feeling overwhelmed about like, well, what should I post today? What should I do with this? That kind of thing. We're going to do that right from the get-go. So that way, you know, you have that support. The thing with that too is like the sooner you invest, the sooner we can do it. So that way you can start getting visible now, and you can start creating that content now. Again, it'll help you with, if you do feel any sort of overwhelm during the program, we've done it 3 weeks before we're actually getting started. You're going to get 90 days access to the Make Life Your Bitch Mastermind. The reason I want to do that is because instead of me doing multiple mindset calls, you can come in and you can do the mindset calls with the Make Life Your Bitch Mastermind to make sure that you have the mindset moving forward. And I love to talk about manifestation and all of that and abundance in there. So it's going to help you keep that vibe high. I'm going to have the confidence bundle. So it's a meditation. There's meditations in there. There's like a manifestation training in there as well. So you'll get immediate access to that. Like I said, I'm going to have Victoria come in, help you with your graphics and Canva. And I'm also having another former client of mine, Shikakana, and she's going to come in and show you how to do self-portraits so that you can go out and actually take your own photos and them look professional for your social media. So she's going to come in and give you a training on that. So that way you also have some really awesome like photos that you can do. So again, all of this is for the 12 weeks for absolutely everything I've just added and included there. It's $1,555, or there's a payment plan and it's 3 payments. I'll tell you today, it's 3 payments of $555. So it's not that much more than $1,555. But if I was to go through and identify for you the objections that I've handled now, the first one being, does it work, right? I've told you about a couple of my clients, but you're going to see over the next little bit emails of me sharing testimonials of my clients who went through the Independent Boss Babe Academy and did private coaching with me, because we did launches. This is a lot more done with you launch. So it's actually like we go deeper and it's like more personalized support than what the Academy was. The Academy was only 6 weeks. Like we learn and we grow, right? Like that one, the last time I did it was a year or 2 ago. The other thing, so then there's like the will it work for me, right? So we've done the masterclass now. Will it work for you? I'm making sure that you have that support all along the way of the signature system. I'm going to actually help you so that it can like remove that fear of like feeling alone. Is this going to work for me? Do I have the support along the way? That kind of thing. And then the third type of objection, right, being money, time, all that. We have the recordings. We have the recordings, we have calls, different, like multiple calls during the week. We have, what's called, the other thing with time is you're like me being able to help you. So that way you don't have, you aren't spending as much time on things trying to figure it out on your own. When it comes to the financial side of things, we have a payment plan. And yes, you have and like with relationship side of things, you have the support all along the way. So that is it for this one. I will see you ladies tomorrow. I will share the Zoom link with you. It's super simple. It's www.zoomwithbrittanyalicia.com, but I will make sure I still include it in here. in the featured section. But other than that, thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I can't wait for all of you who join us inside the Wealthy Rebel. And for everyone else out there listening, especially on the podcast, go out there and make life your bitch. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Make Life Your Bitch podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please share it with your bestie. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, feedback, or compliments that you want to throw like confetti, you can reach me directly at podcast@makelifeyourbitch.co. Thanks for listening.